Hello, everybody, and welcome to a breaking news bonus episode of the Tip of the Iceberg, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. The Penguins made a little bit of news themselves earlier this afternoon, re-signing goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic on a 2-year deal worth $2.5 million per season. Nedeljkovic joined the Pittsburgh Penguins last season in hopes of revitalizing his career. Things started off on a high note in his first year at the NHL level with the Carolina Hurricanes when he was a nominee for the Calder Trophy at the end of his first stint in the NHL, and then they didn't want to re-sign him. Instead, he goes and makes a decent amount of money signing a 2-year deal with the Detroit Red Wings, and he just struggled. He couldn't hold on to the starting net. He was sent down to the minor leagues at a couple different instances, and it just didn't work for Alex Nedeljkovic with the Detroit Red Wings. So last offseason, he signs a 1-year prove-it deal with the Penguins, and he responded pretty well once he came to Pittsburgh. 18-7-7 record with the Penguins in his first season, .902 save percentage, .297 goals against average. Nothing stellar, but at the same time, if you watched him play, if you watched his games, it seemed like the team around him just kind of stepped up a little bit more when he was between the pipes. And not only that, Mike Sullivan often, when talking about Alex Nedeljkovic, mentioned how much of a battler he was. He wasn't a guy that was going to go out there and take over the game in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins, but he certainly gave the Penguins a chance to win almost every single time he went between the pipes. And that led to him taking over the net down the stretch away from Tristan Jarry, starting the Penguins' final 13 games of the season, going with an 8-1-3 record to close things out and nearly getting the Pittsburgh Penguins back into a playoff position. During that stretch, though, it was a little bit of fugazi, right? We looked at it and we said, man, Ned is holding the fort down. Jarry is nowhere to be seen. But when you look at his numbers, .898 save percentage, .292 goals against average, it's not like he was standing on his head. But what was he doing? He was battling, and he was giving the team a chance to win. That's exactly what they did. 8-1-3 is a tremendous stretch. Not trying to take it away from anybody. But at the end of the day, if he's going to be a major part or a significant part of the Penguins moving forward, they're hoping he gives them a little bit more than that. Now, this news comes as a bit of a surprise, like I led off the show saying. Just yesterday on Tip of the Iceberg Live, I said that it didn't feel like the Penguins had the best opportunity for Alex Nedeljkovic. Seems like he disagreed. It felt like Alex Nedeljkovic, coming off of the year that he did, perhaps had a chance to earn a starting job, or at the very least, earn a job where he's going to be given more opportunities than he will be in Pittsburgh, with Joel Blomqvist coming up from the minors and potentially getting an opportunity at some point this season, and Tristan Jarry at the NHL level, a goaltender that the Penguins invested heavily in last offseason, signing him to a 6-year contract worth over $5 million. So what does this mean now with the Pittsburgh Penguins now officially having their 1, 2, and 3 set with 11 days to go before the opening of free agency? Well, if you look at the NHL level alone, leave Blomqvist out of this, the Penguins are now spending $7.875 million on 2 netminders that combine for a .902 save percentage and a .294 goals against average. And for that alone, I'm a little skeptical, right? Especially considering the timing of this move. Now, again, this is all speculation. This is my belief. Do with it what you will. But the fact that this deal was signed no less than 48 hours after all of that goaltending movement yesterday, Jacob Markstrom goes to the New Jersey Devils. The Washington Capitals send out Darcy Kemper to the LA Kings. It seems like the goaltending market kicked off yesterday, and the Penguins responded in kind by re-signing Alex Nedeljkovic. So what does that mean going forward? Well, it means one of two things. Either the Penguins are going to run it back with this $8 million goaltending tandem, or it means there might be something in the works for goaltender Tristan Jarry. But let's run with the first theory at first, and let's hear what Alex Nedeljkovic had to say at the team's locker room cleanout about potentially returning to the Penguins and returning in a tandem with Tristan Jarry specifically.
It's hard to not want to come back and play with the guys that you have in this room.
Is that regardless of Tristan's situation? Insofar as, like, would you want to come back and regenerate what you guys had this year. Is that you all right with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It was up to maybe like around the deadline, maybe a little bit before that. Like we were like top 5 in the leagues in terms of goal, like numbers and all that. So, yeah, like I don't have any no problem coming back and running it back together. I think we pushed each other. We competed hard and we brought the best out of each other. And he's a great friend. Like nothing that's gone on in the past couple of weeks has changed that. Nothing that's gone on at all during the year has changed that. So I think you need to have a good relationship with your partner, and that's exactly what we have. So yeah, I think it'd be great not only for the two of us, but I think for everybody in the room to have us both back.
That's Alex Nedeljkovic talking at Penguins locker room cleanout a couple months ago about coming back to the Pittsburgh Penguins and potentially being in a goaltending tandem for a second consecutive year with netminder Tristan Jarry. Credit for the question goes to Tim Benz of, I believe, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. But that's what he had to say on that front. And when you look at what he said, he was not wrong. Early in the season, the Penguins defense was abysmal. It didn't get much better throughout the season, but early in the season, the Penguins were hanging their goaltenders out to dry, and both Jarry and Nedeljkovic, whoever was in net, gave the Penguins chances to win when sometimes they didn't deserve it. They looked really good in the early portions of the season. The problem with that tandem was, by the end of the year, Alex Nedeljkovic maintained and was what he was, which was a .900 save percentage goaltender, and Tristan Jarry has done what he has done throughout his career to this point, and he faded into the back, and he faded into oblivion following January 1st, and specifically also following the NHL's All-Star break. So if you're running it back for a second consecutive season, you're hoping that Jarry can figure that out and Alex Nedeljkovic can help support in case it doesn't go well. But I don't know if that's a solid plan. I don't like that plan personally. Like I mentioned yesterday on Tip of the Ice-Burgh Live, I don't have much faith in Tristan Jarry in the second half of a season because he hasn't proven to be effective in the second half of a season for over 3 years at this point. Bringing back Nedeljkovic certainly makes things interesting because if the latter portion of what I mentioned earlier is what they're looking to do, instead of running it back, they're looking to secure Alex Nedeljkovic as their number 2 and then go out there and try to find a 1 or a 1A or somebody to be a 1A, 1B pairing with Alex Nedeljkovic. There's a chance with the goaltending market as such that Tristan Jarry ends up being on his way out. What does that do for the Penguins? It would relieve themselves of Jarry's $5+ million over the next 4 seasons, give them a little bit more cap space for July 1st to potentially make improvements to the roster on the forward side of things, potentially make improvements to the roster on the defensive side of things. As we know, the Penguins, they're not one move away. They need multiple moves and multiple new players in new positions to be able to turn this team from being a non-playoff team into what they're hoping is a Stanley Cup contender, or a team at the very least that Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin can try to will to a Stanley Cup run next season. Now, if you're taking a bet on netminders in the open market, there's a couple names of interest. Ilya Samsonov is a name of interest. He was brought up to Toronto by Kyle Dubas prior to last season. He had a good first season. This past one, not as much. And then Cam Talbot's another one. The LA Kings wanted to go in a different direction, but they got pretty good production out of Cam Talbot. And if you look at his last 5 seasons, excluding the one he spent in Ottawa, he's been a pretty consistent goaltender, over .910 save percentage in each of those seasons. So those are the 2 names that I would keep my eyes out for. But at the same time, before any of that has to happen, the Penguins would have to obviously move on from a guy like Tristan Jarry. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I am certainly intrigued by the timing and by the deal signed by the Penguins and goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic. But at the end of the day, the main story here is Penguins re-sign Alex Nedeljkovic 2 more years at $2.5 million. We'll have to wait and see what Kyle Dubas has up his sleeve for the next couple of weeks before the opening of free agency on July 1st. But that is going to do it for this surprise breaking news bonus episode of the Tip of the Ice-Burgh. You can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh or anywhere you get your podcast from. We'll see you guys next time.